With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. So I'm dressed in all black like the Omen, which means one of two things, man. Either we took one square on the chin, and last time I checked, we haven't played a game since December, or something bad's happening to us yet again. And unfortunately, I come as the bearer of bad news. Bad news. It's another bad move for our beloved Washington Redskins, as now our best corner, and we don't have many of them, all right? We didn't have any to spare before this whole ordeal. Our best corner on the roster, Quinton Dunbar, reportedly wants out, wants to either be traded or released. I don't know how far gone this situation is. I heard from JP Finlay first on this story. On the My Teams app, it popped up on my phone. Quinton Dunbar not going to show up at OTAs. So I'm thinking, that's not really that big of a deal. Guys do this all the time. And sometimes guys do this. And I haven't talked about it on my podcast. You know, when did sitting out of OTAs become the new thing? You know, sitting out OTAs has become the new sitting out of training camp. Like, this is when guys try to send a statement, which is cool. You know, the sooner the better. So the organization knows where you stand. You want a new deal? Don't show up to OTAs and then show up at training camp and say, I want a new deal. And if I don't get it, I'm going to sit out. Do that in the OTAs. I think you should just show up at OTAs, tell them that you want a new deal, and see how they react to that behind closed doors, so that the media isn't sticking a mic in your face every chance they get, asking you about your situation, or asking teammates or asking the staff about why Quinton Dunbar isn't here. Instead, you show up for OTAs, you do what you need to do, and behind scenes, you tell these guys, look, I want a new deal or I'm not coming to training camp. And then you kind of figure it out as the offseason progresses. But I can't tell a man how to go about it, because if you show up to OTAs and you get hurt, and I understand that's side of it as well. At the end of the day, I didn't think much of it. I said, he's not coming to OTAs. A lot of guys do this. And sometimes it doesn't even amount to anything, because really, if you're on the last year of your deal and you want more money, you really don't have that much leverage as a player. If you're under contract, you really don't have a lot of leverage. We've seen guys try to take the power back over the last couple of years, whether it's L.B sitting out with the Steelers 2 years ago, or Trent Williams sitting out with the Redskins last year. But those guys have money, all right? They've made money in this league. You can't do what they did unless you have enough to be able to say, I'm not playing this year. Now, you could do it off of principle and be willing to take the L. And if your lifestyle is one that doesn't necessitate you working and you can still get by, knock yourself out. But I don't know of too many people that are willing to sit out, not be paid, and not have enough money to get them by and live comfortably. Okay, I just don't know of many guys that's going to do that. So most times these things end in little to no drama, as a guy wants money, realizes the team isn't going to bend nor fold, and then they show up for training camp, and the rest is history. Now, in certain situations, guy sits out of OTAs, he shows the team he's not playing, they realize that they need to get something done, and something actually happens. But that's not this situation. In Le'Veon Bell's situation, he didn't sign his franchise tag, so he wasn't actually on the hook for anything. Trent Williams actually was on the hook for some things because he was under contract. So there was a different dynamic there. But then it went from, hey, Q-Bar, Dunny not going to show up to OTAs, to, hey, Dunny's not trying to even be here anymore. He wants to be traded. And then I'm thinking to myself, man, I need to do a video on this. But I said, I'm going to hold on, make sure that I get all the information first before I run in front of the camera. And then I hear that Dunny wants to either be traded or released. And so things went from bad to worse. And I'm like, whoa. All right. So I'm at the point now where I'm asking myself, does he even want to negotiate? Because JP Finlay sent out a tweet, and all this information really was coming from JP Finlay. And JP Finlay tweeted out, hey, I spoke to Dunny, and he pretty much said, look, I get where the staff is coming from and the organization is coming from. It's a business, and I get it. I don't know them. They don't know me. I want a long-term deal. Does it sound like they're trying to give it to me? Then send me somewhere else where I can get that done. And You got to understand this from both ends of the spectrum. And honestly speaking, is there blame to go around in this situation? Yeah, there probably is. Is this a situation where I can understand it from both sides? Absolutely. All right. On one hand, you look at the organization and they're saying, look, you want a long-term deal, but this is a guy that we gave you an extension 3 years ago for $12 million, and you have only played in 18 games out of a possible 32 the last 2 seasons. All right. I don't know. Look, when you're on the field, you're hella productive. All right. We feel like you've got number 1 corner potential when you're healthy. The problem is you've been healthy for almost 50% of the games that you have been eligible to play in the last 2 seasons. We can't count on you. So I don't know if we're comfortable enough giving you the long-term deal you're seeking. And then on Quinton Dunbar's side of things, you can see where he's coming from. This is a guy that's 27 in the prime of his career. Don't know how many more of these opportunities you're going to get. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that this is the last opportunity he's going to get for a massive contract. All right, he's got 1 year left on his deal. All right, $4 million. None of it is guaranteed. We saw the Trent Williams situation and how that played out. Don't think Dunny didn't see how that whole situation played itself out. He looked at Reuben Foster last year and he said, damn, Reuben went down in OTAs. All right, what if that happens to me? They could cut me. They could release me with an injury settlement, which will be like $300 and something thousand, and I'm done. Am I supposed to live off of $300 and something thousand for the rest of the year? I can't. I can't put myself in that position. I've worked too hard to get to this point. I need some compensation. I need some guaranteed money. All right. So I totally understand it. Then you add into some extra things like, hey, all right, I've seen this organization lowball some guys and do some guys dirt McGirt that I thought should have still been here. All right. Case in point, Bashaud Breeland. Case in point, Kendall Fuller. Case in point, Preston Smith. You know, the case in point, Jamison Crowder. The list goes on and on and on of guys that have worked their asses off here in Washington only to have to get paid elsewhere. All right. We've seen it done numerous times over and over and over again. They traded Kendall Fuller. I talked about the tweet that he had when the Redskins got rid of Larry Hess, the trainer. I talked about the tweet he had when a Redskins fan asked him, hey, what do you think about Bree and Fuller coming back to Washington? Both of those guys going to be free agents. And he's like, nah, ain't no chance they coming back here. Organization did them dirt McGirt. And then, not to make matters worse, he got to watch both of those guys win a chip this year. All right. So, and he's probably thinking to himself, not only do I probably need to leave to get paid and get that long-term deal that I'm looking for, but I may have a better chance of winning elsewhere because they ain't winning shit here. That's probably what he's thinking in his head. But I think if he had a choice, he'd just stay here. Most people don't want to leave their comfort zone. He's comfortable here. All right. This is the place that he calls home. This is the only place he's known since he's gotten to the league. But I can tell you this too. It's all different faces. And I told you the same thing when Luke Kuechly retired. It's so much easier for you to be ready to move on to a new situation when you look around and it's a bunch of funny faces, man. A bunch of funny lookings. Not a lot of familiar faces around Redskins Park these days. When you look at the staff and you look at all the guys that helped him get to where he is now, those guys aren't here anymore. All right. And if you think that he's somehow in debt to the Redskins, think again. He's in debt to Jay Gruden. Remember when Gruden was fired? Remember how heartfelt of a tweet Dunny sent out and pretty much posting a picture of him and Gruden at one of his first training camps and him thanking Jay Gruden for giving him a chance, for giving him a career and giving him an opportunity to live his dream in the NFL. That was Jay Gruden for Quinton Dunbar, not anybody else in the organization. So as far as Quinton Dunbar is concerned, his allegiance lies with the guy that's no longer here. So when you put all of these things together, I can't blame Quinton Dunbar for wanting to get paid. And I can't blame the Redskins for looking at him and saying, bruh, we need you to prove to us that you can stay healthy for 16 games. And if I'm Dunny, I'm saying, look, before the last 2 years, I played in 15 games. I played in 14 games. I've given you some quality snaps. And if I'm the Redskins, look, I'm not talking about what you did 3 years ago or 4 years ago. We rewarded you for that with a 3-year extension. We're talking about what you've done for us lately. This is a Janet Jackson league. You all know that. What have you done for me lately? Doom, 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 doom. Ooh, yeah. And lately, Dunny has not played in enough games to really qualify for that big deal that he's looking for. All right. So I understand it from both sides. What do you think the Redskins should do? Should they re-sign Dunny to a long-term deal? He's looking for that deal. And I don't think he's going to get it here. I think that's part of the reason he's come out and said this. This didn't just come off of a whim. This didn't come out of left field. This didn't just come out of nowhere. He has some intel that the Redskins right now aren't interested in signing him long-term. He's gotten that information. He understands that there isn't any guaranteed money on the way in his immediate future. And that's a problem for him. It would be a problem for me. And if you were in that same position, it'd be a problem for you as well. So now the question becomes, do you release him? Not the Redskins. I think that of all of the different scenarios, I think that's the one that is most unlikely. Okay. With his contract being as favorable as it is to the team, only $4 million for a guy that we think could be a number one corner, and none of it guaranteed. I just don't see any way possible that Quinton Dunbar is going to be released. I just don't think that makes any kind of sense for the Redskins. All right. So I think you could kind of remove that situation, even though you're building a culture. And if a guy doesn't want to be here, you shouldn't want him here. I just don't see the Redskins being in a position, especially at the cornerback position, where they need help. All right. And even if they go out on the free agent market and make a move or two and draft a guy, they still need help. Okay. So releasing a guy at this moment just doesn't make a lot of sense for the Redskins. So I just don't see that one happening. But I think the other two are distinct possibilities. There could be a trade. There could be a team out there that sees Quinton Dunbar, sees the talent, understands that this guy's best football may be ahead of him, and decides to give him that long-term deal that he's seeking. And the Redskins could recoup some compensation in that process and wash their hands clean of this situation and move on, similar to the situation with Trent Williams last year. Maybe they've learned their lesson. Maybe they take some lessons from that situation and apply them here. Maybe they don't. Or there's the route of extending him and giving him that long-term deal that he's seeking. I don't know. I think that if I were in the Redskins' shoes right now, I'd go with one or two options. I wouldn't look to move Dunny. I think he's a guy that you could build around in the secondary. This is a secondary right now that we don't have a lot of answers. We got Landon Collins and not much else right now. We don't have many answers in that secondary. We need another safety. And I think you could argue right now, if there's no Dunny, we need all three corner positions filled. A lot of you saw what Fab Moreau did. Well, guess what? That was a very small sample size. All right. I'm not banking on Fab Moreau, one, to stay healthy. He's had some injury issues as well. And two, I'm not banking on Fab Moreau to just be a really good corner right now. At best, he's a number two. I don't think I see number one corner in Fab Moreau. But if we can get a quality, serviceable number two out of him, I'd feel good about that. But at the end of the day, we don't even know if he's that right now. Right now, I think if there's no Dunny, you got nothing at corner right now. Nothing that you can rely on at this point. So I feel like if I'm the Redskins, I want something done with him. But if you're not interested in a 5-year, $55 million deal with him, if you're not interested with a 4-year, $42 million deal with him, if you're not interested with a 3-year, $35 million deal, which is probably in the neighborhood of what Dunny is looking for, double figures in terms of per annual salary. If you're not thinking that kind of money for him right now, how about you just guarantee him his salary for this year? And you say, look, bro, you play 14 of the 16 games. All right. You play at least 14 games this year. You give me that same production. He had 4 interceptions last year. I think it was 4, if I'm not mistaken. You give me, because he's had 6 in the last 2 years, 4 last year, 2 the year before that. All right. You give me 4 more interceptions this year. That's another $1 million. All right. You give me 14 out of 16 games. That's another $1.5 million right there for you. All right. So I'm going to guarantee you this $4 million. And if you hit some of these incentives, you play X amount of snaps, you play X amount of games, you give me X amount of interceptions, you could make $8 million this year. All right. That's you right there. You got to sweeten the pot for this guy. All right. Give him something to aspire after. And then you say, look, you hit all of those. We will sit down. I guarantee you have my word. We will sit down and we will talk turkey with you and we will get you the money that you deserve. Because he'll still be in the prime of his career at 28 years old. All right. So you got to sit down and you got to have that discussion with him. But it sounds like his mind sounds made up. Like, y'all don't want me. Y'all don't value me the way that I feel like you should. All of these people have no ties to me. Y'all don't want to give me my money? Fine. Let me go. Let me go somewhere else where I can get my money. It sounds like this has hit the point of no return. But let's just assume that it hasn't. Let's assume that cooler heads could prevail. All right. It's still early in the offseason, man. Things could change. These situations are fluid. Let's say that, Ron gets in his ear and they sit down at the table and all of this stuff is washed under the bridge and they're able to kind of come to a common, goal and a middle ground, and they're able to find some numbers that fit for everyone involved. What would you rather have done here? Quinton Dunbar released? All right, we're building a culture here. We can't have a disgruntled member of this team, a guy that could become a cancer in the locker room. We don't need it if we're trying to build a new culture, get rid of him. All right. Would you trade him? Look, guy doesn't want to be here. He's requested a trade. All right. You don't think he's worthy of long-term money and he may not be in your long-term plans and future? Move him. Or do you resign Quinton Dunbar? Far and away, by far and away, our best corner on our roster right now. It's not even close. And he's shown the propensity. He's shown the potential. When healthy, that's another discussion, all right, that we've had on this particular show. But it's one that bears mentioning. When healthy, this guy has proven that he can be a top caliber corner in this league. We've seen it with our own two eyes on a consistent basis. Unlike a guy like Fabian Moreau, where we haven't seen it consistently, haven't seen enough reps out wide as a boundary corner. We've seen plenty from Quinton Dunbar over the years. We've seen the maturation. We've seen the growth. What I'm tired of at this point, and I get it, the man has not been healthy. I understand it. Maybe this new training staff will do him some good. All right. He has every right not to trust the Redskins training staff. It's a new training staff, however. I'm tired of seeing the Redskins develop talent, get them to the point where they're ready to bubble and burst, and then let him go elsewhere and flourish. Whether it's Kendall Fuller or it's Quinton or it's Preston Smith or it's Jamison Crowder or it's Bashad Breeland. We've seen this happen with Redskins time and time again. I'll go all the way back to Antonio Pierce on you or Ryan Clark on you. We've seen this in the past from this organization. Since Dan has taken over, we've seen this over the years, valuing guys outside of the organization more than the guys in it. I think you have to find a way to pay the guys that need to be here. Dunny, to me, is one of those guys that needs to be here. Brandon Sheriff is one of those guys that needs to be here. I feel like you got to find a way to keep a guy like Quinton Dunbar, but we'll see what the Redskins decide to do. I feel like this thing is going to end ugly. And when I say ugly, it's not going to end well for us in terms of how we perceive this situation to go. I can see the Redskins, because it's a situation where, like I've stated already, like Quinton Dunbar himself stated, there are no ties here. All right. They don't know me. I don't know them. There is no trust right now. I could see the Redskins just flat out releasing this guy. It would be a dumb thing to do, because there is some compensation here to be had for a guy like Quinton Dunbar that's in the prime of his career, that's young, that's talented. Worst case scenario, you play out this year, all right, and then you allow him to go in free agency and make his money, and you'll get a compensatory pick back. Worst case scenario. So, again, I don't know how this is going to end, but because we've seen so many of these situations end ugly for the Redskins, where we don't feel like we've come out as winners, I've been prone to and preconditioned to think that way. So that's what I'm leaning towards. Hopefully this has a happy ending, because as I've mentioned, my position, I would love to sign him long term. I believe he's worthy of long term money. I get the injury situation. I'm going to take a leap out on faith here. I'm taking a step out on that ledge. It could be a little flimsy, but I'm willing to take a step out there and say that the talent has been shown to me on a consistent enough basis that I'm willing to take the risk that comes with Dunbar. And you could put some things in there contractually that says, look, man, we're going to pay you this money. We're going to guarantee you this money up front. But some of this money that's in this contract, you can't get it if you're not healthy on the field. If you're not playing in at least 75% of your games every year, that's 12 games. All right. If you're not in 12 contests every year, you're not going to hit this incentive in your contract. You're not going to get all the money that you could possibly get in the contract. And if I'm Quinton Dunbar, I want to bet on myself. So I'm going to tell you, I'm signing that deal. Because if you tell me you're going to sign me to a 4-year, $42 million deal with 20 of it guaranteed. So that's damn near half the contract. All right. 20 of it guaranteed. And then the rest of it is in base salary and incentives. And there's certain ways for me to get to those incentives. And some of that is production based. Some of it is health based and your ability to be available. I'm willing to take that risk, man. I'm willing to bet on myself that I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to make plays when I'm on the field. So if I'm the Redskins, that's how I would approach it. But we will see. More importantly, what do you think is going to happen? I need two different answers from you. What do you think should happen? Okay. Should, meaning what do you think should happen? And then what do you think ultimately will happen? What will the Redskins do with this situation? The dilemma that is Quinton Dunbar. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage. It could be. I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so for more great content. And look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the near future. I'm not going to put a date on it right now, but we will converse soon, okay? Whether that's this week or next week, there is enough to chew on that we should jump on live at some point. So I may try to make that happen this week, but I will keep you abreast of what is going on. Nonetheless, I'm your man, Louie T, out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Louie T Network.